1996, and Michael Schumacher takes the #1 plate to Ferrari for an undisclosed sum of money. But judging by the smile, most of the multi-million-dollar guesses were short of the mark. His teammate is Ulster's Eddie Irvine, bought out of a Jordan contract for a sum that made Eddie Jordan smile when he named Ferrari as his principal sponsor for the 1996 season. Both the Ferrari defectors went to Benetton, who took the prize for the OTT launch of the pre-season, but at least Alesi and Berger were apparently reconciled after reported difficulties between them at Maranello during 1995. Williams kept Hill and gave him a raise. He said he'd raised his game over the winter and aimed to prove it, but his new teammate got most of the limelight. Jacques Villeneuve brought more than a famous name to the team. He joined as the newly crowned IndyCar champion. David Coulthard, who'd been impressive at Williams, moved on to McLaren, a team still searching for new direction after years at the top. They called on the services of Alain Prost, now bored of that strange mixture of PR and television commentary, which is what retirement holds for so many Formula One drivers. Armed with a handsome pot of gold from Ferrari, Eddie Jordan pulled off yet another sponsorship coup, unveiling an all-yellow car, which was supposed to be in the gold of Benson and Hedges, and paired Rubens Barrichello with Martin Brundle as the team continued its bid to be automatically considered as a member of Formula One's top draw club. Sauber were also likely runners in that particular chase, having Ford power, Grand Prix winner Johnny Herbert, and the yet-to-mature speed of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, still quicker over one lap than over a race distance, but clearly bursting with unfulfilled potential. At the launch of the new Tyrrell, designer Harvey Postlethwaite said it was their best new car for a long while and was designed for the medium-speed corners, which are now a fact of life in modern Formula One. Mika Salo fitted in well, but the diminutive Katayama was lost in the new high-shouldered cockpit evident in all new designs. Against the fog and freezing temperatures of an English winter, the Formula One world makes an annual pilgrimage to its spiritual home, the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. This is the traditional day out in support of the Formula One mechanics, where go-karts, not Formula One cars, are the order of the day. It's organised by Jackie Stewart and is strongly supported, not just by the mechanics, but also by the more illustrious denizens of the pit lane.
I think it was 183 people. So 183 are competing against their heroes, and some of them beating their heroes.
On a day like this, it's often difficult to spot the difference between the heroes and the villains. In fact, it's often difficult to see exactly who's who, because if that was Jackie Stewart on the start line, then who's this wearing that familiar tartan-banded white helmet? Are the blue and white overalls a complete giveaway, or has he nicked those as well?
Oh, yeah, no, if they've been wearing that bloody helmet for the last 2 years, it would have been a different story. That's amazing, it really works. Yes.
I'm here to have a lot of fun and raise some money for the Mechanics Charitable Trust, and everyone seems to be enjoying themselves. So we're doing a bit of go-karting, and people get a chance to race against me and knock me off, and everyone's having a good time, but raising money at the same time. That's it. Okay.
Almost every successful Formula One driver has kart racing at the beginning of his CV. But not all of them end with the words Formula One World Champion. But even when you've reached the top of that particular tree, it's good to remember where it all began. And it's also fun. It's not unusual to find drivers from every different discipline taking part in pro-celebrity kart events of one kind or another. This one is in Stuttgart in Germany, and along with reigning champion Michael Schumacher, the lineup included familiar names like Winkelhock and Surer and Chris Nissen, and the occasional surprise like ex-bike racer turned truck racer Steve Parish and 125cc world motorcycle champion Dirk Rowdies. Watching this part of the proceedings, a series of heats leading to a final, it's hard to avoid the suspicion that one of us isn't necessarily giving it his very best shot. In fact, it seems likely that Michael Schumacher is quite comfortably in charge of proceedings. Watch his lines and you'll see that he's controlling this race from in front. All of the race drivers who have graduated from karting to, let's say, higher forms of single-seat racing say that one of the things you learn first and fastest in a kart is awareness of everything that's going on around you. Without mirrors, you have to be constantly looking for the next threat. Schumacher uses his lines to counter threats. He's only allowing Hensler to pass him when he chooses the moment. And quite clearly, he can get back in front just as easily. At this point, it looks as if Schumacher's enjoying the game. He's teasing Hensler and waiting to see if there will be another challenge somewhere else on the track. But at the moment, it seems the two of them are pretty much locked in a routine. With the checkered flag approaching any moment now, Michael Schumacher will make the move that will stick. One decisive pass, that's it, and all about it. Schumacher in the lead, everybody else second.
You had a nice fight with the young driver in the last race. Do you talk to the young drivers?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we spoke afterwards. I'm quite happy to have these fights, and if I don't win, I don't mind about this. I just want to have fun, and I had this.
There were plenty of sceptics at the start of this season who said that this may well be the only race that Schumacher would win all year. But there were plenty more betting on at least one Ferrari victory before the final round at Suzuka in Japan. Ilmor is one of the most successful engine makers in the IndyCar series, and its engines are run by several teams in the Indy pit lane, as well as the Mercedes engines which power McLaren in Formula One. Ilmor came to Indy in 1986. 2 years later, they took 14 poles and 14 wins from 15 races and the championship. With 13 wins, 1989 was another championship season, and in 1990 and 91, Ilmor powered Penske to a clean sweep of every race on the schedule. By 1993, Ilmor had entered 123 races and won 86, including 6 consecutive victories at Indianapolis. And in 94, Ilmor's first Mercedes-badged engine appeared at the Brickyard and collected a 7th win. Now, the three-pointed star appears most prominently on the Penske livery, and outsiders expect the relationship to be a close one, if only because Penske and Mercedes both own shares in Ilmor. There's a convincing reason to suppose that a Mercedes Formula One engine ought to be as successful as its Indy counterpart, but it hasn't been, despite the investment and the technology involved. Ilmor is bigger than most Formula One teams. This is a place so vast that it makes crankshafts in minutes, shortcutting a process that used to take months, and it uses so much power that it needs its own electricity substation. Even so, McLaren's take-up of 68 engines in a season is massive, almost equal to the entire IndyCar programme. It takes Ilmor about 6 months to design a new engine and about 2 weeks to build one. Along the way, Ilmor do everything, buying in only the electrical components. About £50,000 worth on each engine when it's complete and ready for dispatch back to McLaren. Though racetrack success has proved an elusive mistress in the years since the departure of Honda and the loss of Ayrton Senna, McLaren remains one of the best known and respected teams in Formula One, and an opportunity to go behind the scenes in Woking is a rare privilege. 255 people work here full-time, and between the races, while the test team is away with its own cars, the race cars are stripped down to their 4,000 components, checked, tested, inspected, and then carefully rebuilt.
The inspection procedures have been developed to ensure that we have the safety of all of the critical components of the car. So the suspension that we use on the car has been very carefully developed, and we then plot the life of every single suspension component via a computerized lifing system. Those components are then go through a rigorous inspection, proof loading at various stages in their life to ensure the integrity and the safety of those components that we use on the car.
The prime motive is, of course, safety and reliability, and with this in mind, suspension components are mechanically tested for compression and extension. As a part of a continual process of research and development, McLaren personnel are frequently at work in the wind tunnel at the nearby National Physical Laboratories. "5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, and more if necessary, McLaren tests with a scale model that's an exact replica of the MP411 in the never-ending quest for motor racing's holy grail: more downforce and less drag. Chief aerodynamicist Henry Durand is concerned here with airflow over the cockpit sides. The wind tunnel system is powered by huge fans that produce a measurable airflow, which is fed into a chamber with much smaller dimensions, accelerating the flow to around 180 kilometers an hour by the time it reaches the car. The floors a moving rubber belt which travels at the same speed as the airflow, allowing technicians to simulate racetrack conditions as accurately as possible.
This wind tunnel is fairly sophisticated, and has a high concentration of technology. It does reproduce the conditions in which the car is running on the racetrack. It does have moving ground, which is enabling us to reproduce exactly the ground effect phenomenon.
The process is self-perpetuating. The more data gathered from the wind tunnel, the more changes are made to the car, and the more components have to be manufactured. And almost everything on a modern Formula One car is made from carbon fibre in a production process that's inevitably computer-controlled.
The guys who was coming here, I was just thinking, geez, I'm going to launch the new Ferrari car and I'm the driver. It was like, you know, for like 5 seconds, thought, wow. the tide is turning. I think Ferrari are coming back, and I think this year is going to be the first year of the resurgence of the prancing horse. It won't be easy in terms of he's the most competitive guy out there, so to match him is going to be more difficult than to match any other driver. Love it. Melbourne is more like a race circuit than a street circuit from what I've seen of the maps. You know, I haven't seen the actual circuit, I haven't been there. It looks good. It doesn't look really slow, which is what most street circuits are. It looks as if it flows quite well, so it should be interesting. It should be a great race. It should be a great event. You know, it should be getting right up there with, not quite like Monaco, but it should be getting up there. Finish it. I think if we finish it, we'll be in a good position.
The year started in Australia with a brand new racetrack and a brand new set of odds for the pundits to shuffle, and the pattern of 96 was established at once and may as well have been cast in stone, for it changed precious little during the course of the year. Michael Schumacher remained dramatically quick, the Ferrari dramatically pretty, fast, exciting and unreliable. Jacques Villeneuve was immediately quick, naturally gifted, clearly a future champion and clearly one of the few. Schumacher beware, and Hill too. But Damon Hill had transformed himself over the winter and drove on to a fine and convincing win in Australia.
Well, I was impressed. Naturally, I thought that it was going to take him a bit of a while to get into Formula One, to get into the swing of things, but it's taken him no time at all. He's a very, very adaptable and confident driver. And he was quick. He was quick all weekend.
I always wanted to race. I always knew I was going to race. Partly not to emulate my father, but just partly because, yes, he was a racer and I knew that world and it was a normal world for me, and I just wanted to do it. But had I not raced on cars, I would have raced on skis, or I would have done something similar anyway. So it's not just car racing, it's the competition as well.
No one will ever accept that growing up in a racing family does not influence and even assist a young man. The instances of rising stars with famous fathers is widespread in all forms of racing. And though the offspring would rather you didn't, you will always remember the senior version when you think of names like Fittipaldi, Andretti, Unser, McRae, Hill and Villeneuve.
When I was in school, I was doing maths and physics, so I could have gone in that direction, but I would have needed some kind of competition. I would have needed that in my life anyway.
For many race fans, Gilles Villeneuve was and is a legend. A fiery, talented, reckless and sometimes foolhardy driver. Above all, he was a racer who displayed his heritage in his commitment, his will to win and a nerve-tingling talent.
It's been a big help to start with, to find sponsors, and I had no experience, so of course it was a big help, but it's always been, I won't say a hindrance, but it's always put a lot more pressure. You know, when you start racing, you'll race for a year or two, and nobody will have a clue who you are, and nobody will care until you get results. Where there, when you have a name or something, then you start racing, and everybody has got their eyes on you from the first race. And of course you're going to look stupid. And of course you're not going to be fast, and that's what was happening. But in a way, it obliged me to learn quickly and to get used to the pressure. So it actually could have helped on that side as well.
Yeah, well, we actually built other cars to try out. With our corners to go in without overloading the car.
Yeah, the testing has gone well. You know, got used to the car, and we started doing some okay lap times, and then we started working as well, and you know, experimenting with directions that probably weren't used before. So it's, you know, it's good for me to understand how an F1 car is regulated, and it's good for the team to know as well how I like a car to be, and you know, you work in one direction that way, and it's good to do that before the new car arrives. How can you translate what you feel in the car to someone else, and then that other person translate it back into his own car? There's so much feel in driving that you can't really relate. Once you're at that level, you can't really learn much from other people's experience. You have to experience it yourself, so it becomes natural. When it's your first season, you're completely lost, and you have so much to look for that. Yes, you can get some good ideas from people, but once you're there, anyway, you're too proud to listen to advices.
Jacques Villeneuve arrived in Formula One carrying the legacy of his father's reputation and the badges of his own success. He'd already identified himself as a racer in his own right, with only one aim: winning.
There's no reason to psych yourself out. Everybody's there to do their best job, and you go on the racetrack, and there are the cars. Once you know who's dirty and who's not, then you can pay them back on the racetrack. But there's no point in starting to fight with words and so on, even before the season starts. So even during the season, that's not the point in racing. That's useless. It's just a waste of time and of energies. My mind, I can sit down for 8 hours in front of something, and I won't move until it's finished, until I'm happy with what's happened with it. But it's important to go away completely from racing or for whatever you do, and so you can come back to it with a fresh mind, and see things you wouldn't see earlier. You know, sometimes you go away, and after 3 days, ideas pops in your head that you couldn't have thought about, and it just happens to be clear without you thinking about it. So it's important to go away and clear your mind.
I think it's getting on the way to that it could be one of the best Grand Prix seasons, where I think the competition will get better and better. I think Damon's had a most fantastic start to a championship, and you know, he should pull it off, I hope, this year. But you know, I mean, Ferrari's quite going well now. McLaren are getting better. The Jordan team, I think, are just doing a fantastic job, outstanding job under the directorship of Eddie. And I mean, there's a lot of exciting things happening.
Many drivers have made the journey from Formula One to Indy. Many champions, Clark, Hill, Andretti and Fittipaldi are the names you remember, but only one has made a successful transition in the opposite direction.
I think he's done marvellous. I think, you know, regardless whether he's with the best team, the best car at the moment, what he has achieved personally as a driver is fabulous. And now he's got the one win underneath his belt. He should go from strength to strength. The one drawback he has got this year, he's got to learn a lot of the circuits, but you know, he's so young, he's courageous. I mean, you know, he's a son of the great Gilles Villeneuve, so the genes are all there. And no, good luck to him, and I really wish him well.
All of Villeneuve's remarkable achievements came in a year when he's had to learn the extraordinary capabilities of a modern Formula One car and the European lifestyle, plus every circuit on the Formula One calendar.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if you're a racer, you get up to speed quite quickly. I'm saying that, you know, it's just like playing golf on a new golf course. You don't go and break the track record there first time out, or if you do, you've been very fortunate. You know, the more times you go to a track or to a golf course or or do anything different, like play tennis on different surfaces. The more practice you have, the better you get. He will get better in another year's time when he's been to all the circuits, practiced on them, and he knows what to expect.
There are very few industries in the world geared up to react at the sort of speed demanded by the Formula One teams as a matter of course. Not even the aerospace companies, whose technology is probably the closest to the race teams, expect to turn round parts and whole cars as quickly as the Formula One pit lane. And on this occasion, for Jordan, their normal repainting between rounds has an extra dimension. This week, the yellow livery which accompanied the unveiling of Jordan's new sponsor for the 1996 season is being changed for the more traditional gold colour. And it's a huge operation, much bigger than you might think.
Having just completed Imola and the trucks come back here to base, everything needs to be stripped down. Of course, you have the main part of the car, which is the chassis or the fuselage. That would need to go away, stripped down, because any extra paint left on there will mean excess weight, so it needs to go right back to the carbon, painted up again and brought back here by Thursday, so that gives them about 2 days. Then the rest of the parts of the engine covers, the wings, all of those things will be done, if you like, a little bit later. But everything must be back here, if you are, by Sunday, because that's the day the trucks leave from Monaco. It's a very, very tight schedule, but it's not just the cars itself, it's everything that goes on around it, and the timing beacons and all the different things that we have associated with the team, and the coloration of the team has to be changed, and that goes for spares of every description. So it's a very, very big job.
There's another, even bigger and more regular task in hand as well. Separated into individual components, the cars are being prepared for their next outing. That may just mean a complete nuts and bolts rebuild, or it could involve modification and alteration. The mid-wing behind the cockpit, for example, might not be a feature at every race, so the car being built for the next round might require a different body section and rear wings. Aerodynamics is a constantly evolving science, and few people claim to understand it perfectly. Jordan designer Gary Anderson is one of the many experimenting with the vital importance of what they call the boundary layer effect. And because of these changes, all teams make changes to the car between races, some more than others. McLaren, for example, expect to produce as many as 150 new components between races. Smaller teams with smaller budgets make fewer changes, and perhaps teams with cars that are already close to their best make fewer changes as well. Painting completed, and for Jordan now, the immediate concern is to prepare the cars for their next race. And in this case, for many Formula One fans, it's not just a race, but the race.
We had our very first finish ever, was at Monaco, and that was 1991. And of course that turned out to be a great season for us. But generally, Martin Brundle, who now drives for Jordan, he's had all his best results have been at Monaco. So let's hope his omens can come with us and join us and give us a best result there.
When the cars roll out to race on Sunday afternoon and the fans cheer their heroes, all the romance and glamour of Formula One comes alive. And though you may read or see much about the technology and the skills behind the scenes, about the knowledge and cleverness which make the cars perform at their 700 horsepower best, there's another side to Formula One you may never see or even give a thought to. Just getting there. When the cars are finished and ready to race, when the technicians and mechanics and backroom wizards have finished their millimetre perfect handiwork at the team's headquarters, the cars are rolled out for their first brief sniff of the open air. And it is brief. Within seconds, they're rolled back into darkness as they're loaded into the huge transporters waiting patiently outside. Each one of these rigs is full to its considerable brim, one with cars and the other with, quite literally, a lorry load of spares. This is the beginning of a logistical exercise which will deliver them ready to race to any one of 10 European racetracks, complete with spare parts, service equipment and, of course, technicians and crew. Putting quart into pint pots is easy compared to this, a well-practiced procedure that's as carefully choreographed as the high-profile ballet of the pit stop. For these two Marlboro McLaren MP410 race cars, this is the start of the shortest road journey of the year. Though their racetrack miles are the ones which get all the attention and applause, this is how they cover the biggest distances of the season, travelling 30,000 kilometres a year in the back of their purpose-built trailers, each one as specialised and costly as its contents. But today's journey is only a short one, no less emotive because of that. The British Grand Prix is the team's home event. But this could be the start of any race as the trailers prepare to leave their Woking base in convoy as usual. Wherever they go in Europe, they travel together, keeping in touch by radio, sticking to schedules with military precision. This is one delivery that can never be late. The drivers enjoy a ride that's close to luxury. Most modern saloons aren't this comfortable. Sometimes the glamour of Grand Prix wears a little thin, the romance of the road not always a freedom or a pleasure for those with a schedule to keep and a tachograph to obey. Transport regulations mean that these journeys, the 70-odd trucks that make up a Grand Prix paddock travel 3 million communal kilometres a year, must be meticulously planned. Now comes the familiar and well-practiced routine. Everything must be unpacked and laid out ready for use in the same location at each circuit as it was the time before and will be at the next. And then it's time to go racing again.
Sometimes could be a bit emotional, especially you're coming to the home Grand Prix, then emotions coming up, with a little nice feeling in the stomach comes up, so it can be quite nice. In the morning when the warm-up starts, then things have to be prepared for the race. It's the final minute to check out maybe another setup, whatever, and the strategy, and you go out, check your car, and hopefully come with good feelings back into the pits to discuss what's going to happen in the race. Is very normal on the race day. We have our procedure we're going through. We have the things to discuss, and sometimes there are more, sometimes there are less. It's certainly very good if they're little, because then you know things are good. But if you have to discuss a lot, then it can be a challenge as well. Surprised how relaxed we are, because they feel so attention, and we are so easy. But I have to say, I do the same if my brother race. I'm completely under tension, and he is just normal, so I know what it's like. Every driver is different. For me, the first emotions again on the circuit come up during the driver's briefing. I get a little bit nervous, but then after that it disappears. Sleep maybe for half an hour if there's time, and then a little bit of nervousness again comes up. You get into the car, you get out, you do your installation lab, go to the grid, sit down, discuss again what is the final judgment, and then you just sit there. You may pray a little bit and get ready, concentrate, wait for the lights, go for the installation lab, and then the green light goes on and you take off. After having discussed how you feel before you get into the car and into the race, you must know how it feels once you're up on the podium, and that's the most beautiful thing. Once you have had races like in Nürburgring, I fought all my way through the field, and then at the end, the last 2 laps, I got my victory, and that's just exciting. Being there, up in the highest position, it's the best what can happen to you.
Now you're going to meet the guy that designed the FW18, Adrian Newey.
My job at Williams is chief designer, and as such I suppose I'm along with Patrick, responsible for the performance of the car.
Now 37, knew he started racing karts when he was 15, and despite graduating from Southampton University with a degree in aeronautic engineering, he always wanted a career in motor racing.
Because I felt that racing cars were closer to aircraft than anything else, and so I didn't study aeronautics because I was interested in aircraft, I'm afraid. I studied it because I wanted to get into racing.
His career in motorsport began in 1980, first with Fittipaldi and then with March, back in the days when the science of aerodynamics was only just becoming vitally important on the racetrack.
Always had a great importance in Formula One. Even in the 50s it still had a great importance. It's just it's only recently as it's really been recognised.
Racing landmarks came with the rear-engined Cooper in the late 50s, the winged Brabham, and then as a development of Jim Hall's drag-reducing aerodynamic devices, the arrival of deliberately introduced downforce on the Lotus 78, and the sudden discovery that aerodynamics was the key.
I think really over the last 5 years or so, people have realised just how important it is.
At Williams since 1990, Newey's gone on to develop the art and produce cars which are generally accepted as being the best in the pit lane.
If you do a good job in motor racing, then the car goes well, and you get an immediate feedback. If you don't do a good job, then the car goes badly and again. So it's very direct. The Williamses over the last 5 years, then generally you can see an evolution of one car to the next car.
The 1995 FW17 was widely regarded as the best designed and engineered car in the pit lane, and though it incorporates all the latest safety regulations, including the controversial dimensions surrounding roll bar and cockpit sides, the latest evolution from Didcot is just that. Evolution rather than revolution, as the team chose to improve on the good points of the 95 car and give the drivers a stable platform from which to advance. That aim has been easily achieved, and the FW18 is again the best of the breed and has brought Williams yet another constructors' title. More and more often during the season, races are won or lost not on track, but during the carefully choreographed ballet of the pit stop. Huge budgets and resources don't win races by themselves, but they do help. Given a £2 million bonus, most teams in the pit lane would spend it testing. McLaren advisor Alain Prost has to be the most serious test driver the championship has ever seen. But in the absence of specialist assistants, most race drivers end up doing the job themselves, sometimes out of choice. Pre-season, Villeneuve knew he had to get track mileage under his belt, and he joined the rigorous test schedule full-time and found that life in the test team is as hard as the race team.
I mean, generally a test day starts by us getting up at 6:30 in the morning. We generally leave the hotel at 7:30, start running at 9. Sometimes have a break for an hour for lunch, continue running in the afternoon till 5:30, 6, and then it's quite a big job list to get the car ready for the next day. Generally we finish around about 12:30, 1 o'clock the following morning, and it's just like that every day.
Williams, like all big teams, have a full-time test driver, and in view of the subjective nature of setting up a race car, the efforts and achievements of the test driver and test team translate surprisingly well to what the race drivers do and achieve on Sunday afternoon.
Quite well, really. I mean, you know, they're obviously feeding information from races back to us, and we're feeding information from tests to them. I mean, it is just a continual development program from start to finish.
The sign of all great champions is the amount of effort they're prepared to make. Like Prost and Senna before him, Michael Schumacher puts maximum effort into every aspect of his job. He's another one you'll find hard at work long after lesser mortals would have gone home. He's another one who will test every day the calendar allows if it will improve his performance.
No, there is no off-season. I mean, we do have a quiet period when the last race is on of the year, when we try and snatch a week's holiday. And the drivers generally don't want to test straight away after the last race, so they generally have maybe a week or a 2-week break.
If practice makes perfect, then this year's champion, like all the others, will owe at least part of his success to the unseen and often unsung efforts of the test team. The new Tyrrell Yamaha 024 was unveiled in England in front of a huge crowd of pressmen and photographers, many of whom picked up the feeling that the team expected the new car would put them back on the Formula One podium in the coming year. Team owner Ken Tyrrell believed that the car was something special.
Yes, this is something special. I think we have built, Harvey and his team have designed something that's going to be a bit special. We have to wait until the first race to see whether that manifests itself, but we're all very confident in the company that this is going to be one of the best cars that we've ever made.
Even before the launch, the car had already impressed its drivers. Both Mika Salo and Ukyo Katayama were on the strength again, and in a Barcelona test they'd both driven a 1995 car with the 1996 engine and gearbox tacked on the rear end, and both of them had climbed out after that test wearing broad smiles.
Always we are smiling after first testing because the mixed car, 023B, was 3 seconds quicker than older model. That's why we are smiling every day now.
24 hours after the launch, a complete new 1996 car received its first shakedown runs at a cold but sunny Brands Hatch circuit. Mika Salo was the driver, and the plan was to take it easy and make sure there were no glitches before the car went to Estoril for serious high-speed testing in preparation for the coming season. '95 hadn't been a good year for Tyrrell, despite the return of pit lane guru Harvey Postlethwaite, who pioneered the high-nose design prevalent in almost all forms of single-seater racing nowadays, and returned to it for his drawing of the 1996 Tyrrell. At the launch, he said that his aim for the 1996 car had been to extract the maximum mechanical grip from the car, especially in view of the latest research data, which revealed that most Formula One cars spend most of their time in 75 miles an hour corners, rather than at sustained high speed either in a straight line or in turns. An essential part of the package was the new, smaller and lighter Yamaha engine, on paper a vast improvement over the 95 unit. Pre-season it had brought smiles to the faces of drivers, engineers and designers, and at the launch Harvey Postlethwaite said he'd asked Yamaha to build him something similar to the engines they build for motorcycle Grand Prix rather than Formula One, although not a two-stroke. In retrospect, it might have been better if they had.
This Formula One engine owes a lot more to, it's very small, it's very compact, it's very light, it's very little. It's very much like the sort of engine we've seen in Yamaha Grand Prix bikes, rather than a sort of rather larger. It was a little bit facetious, but it is small, and it's the size that's the attraction.
After all that pre-season optimism, the year didn't live up to expectation. Reliability was not one of the engine's strong points, and despite the budgetary benefits of a factory engine supply, it's unlikely that anyone at Tyrrell regretted the shift of the engine deal to Arrows towards the end of the season in exchange for the tried and tested Ford. All of Tyrrell's 30-plus Grand Prix victories came with Ford power, so perhaps the switch was a good omen for 1997. Certainly the team expressed the belief that the reliability, or lack of it, which was so much a feature of the 1996 season, had prevented either of the drivers or the car itself from realising its full potential, rather than any lack of budget for development or testing.
I think it's always been the case that perhaps you can't build a World Championship winning car without the right budget. But having the right budget doesn't mean that you will build a good car. I think there have been many examples of that down the years.
Jordan's new facility at Silverstone has seen some strange sights, but this was one of the strangest. Seat fittings are always an eye-catching procedure, but this time the eye was caught by the fact that the fittee, if that's the word, was already a world champion, although not on the racetrack, even though part of his success depends on being very quick on tarmac. This was a birthday present extraordinaire for 28-year-old Colin McRae, the 1995 World Rally Champion, achieving a lifetime ambition of all of us, driving a modern Formula One car on a racetrack, while Jordan's regular hot shoe, Martin Brundle, got almost as much fun out of the other half of the exchange.
Well, obviously my highlight will be driving the rally car and going around with Colin and seeing, you know, how he works the car, how he makes the car slide and go around the corners nicely. And then also helping him enjoy driving my car, make sure he's, you know, going to get something from it, make sure he's going to be safe, and we can understand a little bit about what we both experience doing our everyday jobs.
Every day. First then, the humdrum part of an everyday occasion. Brundle takes McRae round Silverstone in a road car to show him the lines a road racer would take and the points at which he might usefully be on or off the brakes. All very different from the way McRae is used to driving, as a presently relaxed and chatty Martin Brundle was about to find out.
So how many gears are we coming down for this one?
You come down 5 gears for this one. Just keep flicking the lever. Second, then it's like, you might want, I took third and then back down to second. The car slide, this track is so slippery in here.
Yeah.
And bumpy.
And then you're in second here?
Yeah, just keep staying in second.
All of which sounds like good advice. And the trouble with all of this is that so far we're only dealing in theory, and you just know it's all going to be very different when the green light comes on and the red mist descends. So much for racing lines, but now the moment has come and Colin McRae gets to put theory into practice. Given his reputation for driving the 555 Impreza to the ragged edge and then beyond, and then dragging it home with some very ragged edges indeed, it's hard to guess who's feeling most apprehensive at this moment. Despite all the nerves and despite a luridly coloured history on the World Rally stage, and sometimes off it, the outing is a complete success. Colin McRae enjoys the whole experience, stays out of the scenery, and avoids not only the undergrowth, but the incipient urge to plunge across the grass you can't help feeling he and every other rally driver in the world must be nursing.
It's scary to start with.
Just take us through that spin then, what happened there?
I tried on the corner coming back onto Club Straight because there's lots of room there, just to see how much throttle I could get on and how early, and I just got a bit too much.
Just looking ahead then to this afternoon, perhaps you can relax a bit more, though you have got Martin next to you.
I've got to sit with him, I think. I can't relax yet.
And now it's revenge time for Martin Brundle and for everyone else at Jordan Grand Prix.
Keep it right in the middle, because if you get it on this gravel, it just accelerates on the brakes.
The normally intrepid McRae is strapped into the passenger side of his rally car and piloted away looking decidedly nervous. A feeling which is likely to be magnified any moment now. As soon as it becomes clear that Brundle is not here on the stage just for a nice afternoon at the wheel. He's come here to drive, and that's exactly what he did. Occasional nervous smiles from McRae look more like deliberate attempts at bravado than genuine pleasure, as the world champion gets a rare taste of what it's like being thrown at the scenery when there's a maniac at the wheel.
Good, we had a good day, didn't we? Do this again.
You know, with anything high performance, it'll bite you if you don't treat it right, yet it will reward you if you drive it right. It's actually very easy to drive, a very forgiving car, providing you don't let it head off in the wrong direction, and the track is so slippery that it just won't come back again.
After the opening rounds of the series, Damon Hill has established himself as favourite in the title race.
Prove that I can be world champion, because I haven't achieved that goal yet. If you could have the style of the Alain Prost and the sort of flair of Ayrton Senna and the sheer balls, for want of a better word, of Nigel Mansell, then you know, if you could bring those three together in one driver, then you'd have a pretty potent mix there.
For Hill, a confirmed family man with a strong desire to be at home as much as possible, the demands of a championship season are greater than the ones you see on Sunday afternoons at the racetrack.
Well, I spent 300 hours flying last year, actually, which is equivalent to about 12 days actually in the air. And so there's an awful lot of travelling. There's an awful lot of time changes as well, so that upsets your sleep pattern, inevitably. But simply coming back, even if it's after a European race, we'll get back on Sunday night, late Sunday night, but I probably won't go to bed. You'd expect me to be very tired after, even if I've won a race. Well, I'm wanting to relax, but actually I'd probably stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning, and then I'd wake up at about 7:30. So it takes me about 2 days to actually get back, to come down, if you like, from the excitement of the Grand Prix weekend.
Living in Ireland imposes an extra travel burden on Hill. When he comes back from Canada or Hockenheim or wherever it is, there's always one more flight he has to take in order to get back home to his family. And when the next race on the schedule comes along, he may have to leave one day earlier than most. For Hill, the race weekend starts on a Wednesday and finishes on Monday at best, sometimes on a Tuesday, depending on distance and time zones.
So I like to spend a lot of time at home doing so-called normal things, like taking the children to school, and that's a great pleasure for me to actually spend some time at home with the family, because I spend so long away, and that's a great way for me to relax too. But as I said, my mind is never very long away from thinking about motor racing.
It's a side of Hill which is seldom seen. Media speculation about his ability as a driver, whether he can stand the pressure and whether he can win the battle of nerves with Schumacher and or his teammate Villeneuve, these are the things from which headlines can be made. But Damon Hill can't wait to get home to his wife and children once the race is over. There's no copy in that, never mind that it may be true.
In Ireland they have a lot of beautiful scenery and places you can go to explore, and if you can fit that in with some training as well, that's quite good.
Fitness is an essential part of a Formula One driver's CV, as we all know. But until you see it face to face, it's easy to underestimate the degree of commitment and sheer effort involved in building up the human body to deliver the right amount of stamina and strength needed to last through a Formula One race, still less be fit enough to win one.
All the time I've been on the bike, all the time I've been rowing, and all the time I've been pulling weights, I've been thinking about the driving, thinking about the races that I've done, thinking about the car, and really focusing my attention onto the job ahead.
Despite being the son of a Grand Prix racer, Damon's first love has only 2 wheels.
My heroes were characters such as Barry Sheene and Kenny Roberts and Freddie Spencer.
If it's difficult for the media to reconcile the real Damon Hill with their own need to have a tabloid-approved projection of what they'd all like him to be, how much harder must it be for Damon Hill himself to hang up his apron and oven-proof gloves, put on his race face, along with the Nomex suit and the London Rowing Club crash helmet?
The thing when you drive a racing car, you're concentrating totally for up to 2 hours, and everything is slowed down, but at the same time passes very quickly. It's a strange state to be in, but it's an exhilarating state to be in, because when it's working well, then you're in complete control of the car. You enter a different level of consciousness, whereby things seem to be happening without even conscious thought, and that's the really wonderful feeling about performing well.